The school auditorium was buzzing with excitement. The annual talent show had drawn a large crowd of students and faculty, all eager to see who would impress them this year. A mix of musical performances, magic tricks, and comedy acts filled the program, but one act stood out for all the wrong reasons. At the far edge of the stage, next to the grand piano, stood a girl clutching a violin case. She was small, her figure almost swallowed by the oversized green dress she wore. Her long, messy hair was tied up into a loose ponytail. She had no name on anyone's mind. Most of the students didn't even know who she was. But the teachers and the others who'd seen her around school knew her story. Her father was the janitor. Her mother had passed away when she was young. She didn't fit in with the popular crowd, nor did she try to. She was the quiet, shy girl who kept to herself, sat in the back of the class, and only spoke when absolutely necessary. No one ever took notice of her. Except for one teacher, Mr. Grayson. He had taught at the school for nearly 20 years. He had seen students come and go, and while many were talented, it was rare to see someone truly exceptional. That's why he decided to play a little prank that day. "You should join the talent show," he'd told her earlier that week with a smile. "Play something on your violin. It'll be a good laugh." At first, she'd stared at him, unsure whether he was joking. He was always so sarcastic with the other students. But this time, his eyes twinkled with a mischievous light, as though he expected her to play along. "I don't know," she'd mumbled, unsure. "Don't worry. You'll fit right in," he assured her. "And who knows? Maybe you'll surprise everyone." He had been laughing when he said it, but there was something in his voice that made her believe he meant it. She had agreed, partly because she wasn't one to say no, and partly because it seemed like the only way she would ever be noticed in this huge school. The days leading up to the talent show were filled with mockery from the other students. The whispers were constant. "What's the janitor's daughter doing here? Does she even know how to play the violin? I bet she's terrible. This will be a disaster." They didn't realize how wrong they were about her. As she stood there on the stage, clutching her violin, the weight of their words pressed down on her. She could feel the eyes of the audience burning into her. The laughter had died down, but the mocking glances were still there. The judges, faculty members who seemed half-heartedly interested, glanced at their watches, ready to move on to the next performer. Mr. Grayson stood at the side of the stage, arms crossed, waiting for her to start. His expression was unreadable. He had a confident look on his face, as though he knew something the others didn't. The microphone in front of her stood like an unwelcome guest, but she ignored it. She took a deep breath, opened the case, and pulled out the violin. Her hands trembled just slightly as she positioned the bow, her fingers hovering over the strings. She had practiced this piece for days in the quiet of her room. She knew it well. It was simple at first, but it had layers that would reveal themselves with each note. Without hesitation, she drew the bow across the strings. At first, the sound was nothing extraordinary. It was a quiet, gentle tune that seemed to almost fade into the silence of the room. But then something changed. The music grew stronger, more vibrant, each note filled with emotion, with a life of its own. She moved her fingers with a sense of purpose, her eyes closed as she became lost in the sound, her world shrinking to only the music and her violin. The audience, expecting to hear a child struggle with a violin, sat in stunned silence. A few students in the front row snickered at first, but the longer she played, the less they found to laugh at. The music flowed through the air, winding its way around the audience. They could feel it. The deeper they sank into the melody, the more they realized, this wasn't a joke. Her bow moved with grace, as if it were guided by something unseen, something much older than her, much more refined. Each note seemed to cut through the thick air of the auditorium, filling the space, making it crackle with energy. Mr. Grayson, standing at the side, clenched his jaw. He wasn't prepared for this. When the first piece ended, there was a moment of stunned silence. Her fingers had stopped, but the echo of her playing seemed to hang in the air. The room didn't know how to react. No one moved. And then, someone in the back row clapped. It started as a single clap, hesitant, but then another joined in, and another. Slowly, the entire auditorium erupted into applause, their faces lighting up with surprise and admiration. Even those who had mocked her just moments ago were stunned. She had stunned them all. But the most striking thing of all wasn't the applause, it was the change in how everyone viewed her. The janitor's daughter wasn't just a girl from the back of the class anymore. She was something else entirely. She took a deep breath, her hands shaking slightly, but she kept her head high. She gave a small bow, not just to the audience but to herself. She had done it. She had shown them that she wasn't just the quiet girl no one paid attention to. She had proven them wrong. Mr. Grayson, still standing off to the side, looked at her with something resembling pride. He hadn't known what to expect, but he had a feeling. A feeling that she wasn't just an ordinary girl from the janitor's family. There was something remarkable about her. The applause continued for a long while, but she didn't hear it. She was already moving back to her seat. The violin felt heavy in her hands now, the weight of it almost unbearable. But it wasn't just the instrument. It was the realization that her life had just changed in that single, breathtaking moment. Back in the audience, the other students were whispering to one another, their faces a mixture of shock and admiration. "I had no idea she could play like that," one of them said, his voice hushed. "Who knew?" another whispered, still staring at her. The judges, however, were equally silent, unsure how to process what had just happened. The head judge, Ms. Lopez, exchanged a glance with the others. Her eyes widened with realization. She hadn't expected a performance like that from someone so inconspicuous. For the next few minutes, the event carried on, but the memory of her performance lingered like an unshakable truth. The janitor's daughter had not only proven herself in that moment, she had made everyone question their assumptions about her. Mr. Grayson couldn't help but think about the words he had said to her earlier, "You'll fit right in. And who knows? Maybe you'll surprise everyone." He hadn't expected this. But now, as he looked at her, he knew one thing for certain, this was only the beginning. The days after the talent show seemed to blur together for the janitor's daughter. Her name, Maya, was suddenly everywhere. Whispers followed her in the hallways. Students who had once ignored her now passed by, their eyes filled with curiosity and a touch of respect. Even the teachers seemed to look at her differently. She couldn't quite process the change. One moment, she had been the invisible girl, and the next, she was a mystery. Maya tried her best to carry on as usual, avoiding the stares and the conversations that lingered just beyond her reach. But it wasn't easy. It was as if everyone around her was holding their breath, waiting for something more. After the performance, Mr. Grayson had sought her out in the crowd, a glint of pride in his eyes. "You were amazing, Maya. Absolutely amazing," he had said, his voice warm. She smiled nervously, not knowing how to respond. "Thanks," she had whispered, still unsure about how she felt about everything. But as she walked through the hallways in the days that followed, it wasn't just the students who noticed her, it was the teachers, too. There were quiet conversations in the staff lounge about her performance, whispers about her talent that seemed to grow with each passing day. Some of the teachers, especially the music department staff, were even considering having her perform again for a special event, something that would showcase her abilities in front of an even larger audience. But the change in Maya wasn't just about the attention. It was more than that. A deep, unsettling feeling had begun to take root within her, a sense of unease she couldn't explain. She had always been content with her quiet life, with the anonymity that allowed her to simply exist without expectation. Now, everything had shifted. The performance had opened a door, one she hadn't been ready to walk through. It was as if something inside her had been exposed, something she hadn't known was there. She spent the following week hiding in her room, trying to escape the constant reminders of her newfound visibility. The attention was overwhelming. It was like everyone was watching, waiting for her next move, eager to see if she could live up to the performance that had so captivated them. But what they didn't know, what no one knew, was that Maya wasn't just a girl from the janitor's family. There was more to her than anyone could possibly imagine. It wasn't just the violin that made her different. It was the secret that had been buried in her family for years. A secret her father had desperately tried to keep hidden. It started one evening when Maya's father, Victor, came home later than usual. She was sitting at the kitchen table, the soft hum of the refrigerator filling the silence, when he walked through the door. His face was pale, his eyes distant, as though he had been carrying a weight he couldn't shake. "Dad?" Maya asked, her voice laced with concern. Victor paused, his hand on the doorframe as he took in a deep breath. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Maya's heart began to race. She had never seen her father look so serious. Victor had always been a stoic man, quiet, hard-working, and always willing to do whatever it took to provide for his daughter. He had never been one to share his burdens with her, and yet tonight, there was something different about him. Something was wrong. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Victor walked over to the table, sitting down across from her. He looked at her for a long moment, as though searching for the right words. Then, in a low voice, he spoke. "There's something you need to know. Something about your mother, about us." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath and then, almost reluctantly, began to speak. "Your mother, she wasn't just any woman. She was from a family of great wealth, a family that had connections to powerful people. They had a history, Maya. A history that you're a part of." Maya stared at him, confused. "What do you mean? I don't understand." Victor hesitated, his gaze shifting toward the window as if searching for some invisible answer. "Your mother was part of a family with a legacy, Maya. A legacy that had been hidden for generations. And, you were born into that legacy, whether I wanted it or not." Maya felt a cold knot tighten in her stomach. "What are you saying?" He met her gaze, his eyes full of regret. "I should have told you sooner. I thought it was best to keep you away from it all. But I see now that it's too late to hide it any longer. Your mother's family, they're not just rich, Maya. They're powerful. And they've been looking for you." Maya's heart pounded in her chest. "What are you talking about? Why would anyone be looking for me?" Her father's hands trembled as he leaned forward, his voice shaking. "Because you're the heir, Maya. You're the last living member of their bloodline. And they'll stop at nothing to find you." The room seemed to spin as the words sank in. Maya's mind raced, trying to process what her father had just revealed. Her mother's family, her legacy, had been kept from. Maya sat frozen at the kitchen table, the weight of her father's words pressing down on her. The quiet hum of the refrigerator, the rustle of the wind outside, the faint ticking of the clock, it all faded into the background. Her world had just been turned upside down, and she couldn't quite grasp it. Her father's voice echoed in her ears, "You're the heir. They're looking for you." Her mind raced. She wasn't just the janitor's daughter. She wasn't just a girl who played the violin at a school talent show. She was someone who was a part of a family with power, influence, and connections. A family that had been hidden from her for years. What does that even mean? She thought, her chest tightening with anxiety. The world outside the kitchen window seemed distant now. The bright stars, the quiet streets, none of it mattered anymore. She wasn't sure what had changed within her, but something was stirring. A deep, unsettling feeling crept through her veins like a slow-burning fire. She glanced at her father, his face filled with a mixture of regret and fear. She had never seen him like this before. "Dad," she whispered, her voice shaky. "What does this mean? Why didn't you tell me before? Why did you hide this from me?" Victor ran a hand through his graying hair, a deep sigh escaping his lips. He sat back in his chair, his eyes distant as he looked out the window, as though trying to find the right words. "I never wanted you to be a part of it, Maya," he said, his voice rough. "I never wanted them to find you. After your mother died, I made a promise to myself that I'd protect you from all of it. I knew how dangerous they were, how powerful they could be. If they knew you were alive, they would have come for you a long time ago." Maya's breath caught in her throat. Dangerous? Powerful? She swallowed hard, her mind trying to process the flood of thoughts and questions. "Who are they, Dad? Who is my mother's family? What do they want with me?" Victor's eyes darkened, and he seemed to hesitate before answering. They were part of a secret society. A group of influential families who controlled a lot more than just money. They had power, connections, secrets, things that could change the world. Your mother, she was born into that. She was a part of that world. But she chose to leave. She left everything behind when she met me. When she had you, she swore to me that she would never go back to them. But I guess they never forgot her. And they never forgot you. Maya's head was spinning. A secret society? Influential families? Her mother had been part of something so far beyond her comprehension. No wonder her father had always kept her hidden, sheltered from the outside world. But why had it all come to this? Why had the society been searching for her, and what did they want from her now? Victor leaned forward, his hands shaking slightly as he clasped them together on the table. "Maya, you're the last living heir to that family's legacy. They don't just want to find you, they need to find you. They believe you hold the key to everything they've been searching for." The words felt like a punch in the gut. The key to everything? Maya opened her mouth to speak but found herself at a loss for words. She had never known any of this. All her life, she had believed that her only identity was that of the janitor's daughter, a quiet girl who played the violin in the shadows. But now? Now, she was supposed to be the heir to some powerful, hidden family, a legacy that had been kept from her. "How do you know all this?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "How do you know so much about them?" Victor's eyes darkened, and he leaned back in his chair. "I wasn't always a janitor, Maya. Before I met your mother, I had another life. A different identity. I was involved in things I shouldn't have been. When I married your mother, I swore to leave that life behind. But when she passed away, I realized that I couldn't hide from it anymore. They came for me, Maya. They came looking for her. But I told them nothing. I couldn't. And I never wanted you to be a part of it. But now that they know you're alive, they'll stop at nothing to find you." The truth hit Maya like a wave crashing against the shore. Her father's past, the hidden legacy, the society that had once controlled so much, none of it made sense. She had always known that there were things about her family that didn't add up, but she had never expected this. She had never thought that the quiet life she had lived could be so different from the reality that lay hidden beneath it all. "I don't want anything to do with them," Maya said, her voice firm. "I just want to live my life, Dad. I don't want to be a part of some secret society or whatever they are. I don't care about the legacy. I don't care about their power." Victor's face softened, and he reached out, placing a hand on hers. "I know, Maya. I know you don't. But it's not that simple. They won't leave you alone. They've already started looking for you. They won't stop until they find you, and when they do, they'll try to use you." "Use me for what?" Maya's voice trembled. Victor shook his head, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and regret. I don't know. But I know this, whatever they want, it's not something you can escape easily. They'll use whatever they have to in order to control you. Maya stared at him, her mind racing. She had always believed that her life was simple, ordinary, even. But now, it felt like everything she knew was a lie. She wasn't just the janitor's daughter. She wasn't just a quiet, unnoticed girl in a school of thousands. She was something more. She was the key to a legacy that could alter everything. I won't let them control me, Maya said, a new sense of determination rising within her. She wasn't going to let this mysterious society take away her freedom. She wasn't going to let her life be dictated by her bloodline. Victor looked at her, his expression a mixture of admiration and concern. I wish I could protect you from this, Maya. But you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to run, hide, and stay out of their reach. They won't give up easily. Maya took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm that was raging inside her. I won't let them find me. I won't let them win. But even as she said the words, she knew that she couldn't outrun the truth. This was just the beginning. And whatever came next would challenge everything she had known about herself, and about the world she lived in. Maya didn't sleep that night. The weight of her father's revelation gnawed at her, keeping her awake long after the rest of the house had fallen into silence. The house felt different now, darker, colder, as though something was lurking just beyond her reach. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind against the window, seemed to carry a message she couldn't quite understand. The quiet was suffocating. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts and questions. Her father had told her that the powerful family who had once controlled so much of her mother's life was looking for her. They wanted her. And he had warned her that there was no escaping them. But how do I hide from something like that? She thought. How do I run from a past I never knew existed? Her fingers trembled as she picked up her violin, the instrument that had sparked the change in her life. For so long, the violin had been a refuge, a way for her to escape the world around her and lose herself in music. But now, it felt like a reminder of everything she didn't understand. A tool that had somehow connected her to a legacy she never asked for. Could the violin be part of it? She wondered. Could it be more than just an instrument? The question lingered in her mind, unanswered. The truth was, she didn't know what to believe anymore. The life she had built, quiet, unassuming, was slipping away, replaced by a darker, more dangerous reality that she couldn't outrun. By morning, Maya had made up her mind. She wasn't going to wait around for them to find her. She wasn't going to sit idly by while the shadows of her past crept closer. She needed answers, and she needed them fast. But as she stood up from the bed, a sharp knock at the door sent a jolt of fear through her chest. Her father's voice came through the door, low and tense. Maya, stay where you are. Don't open the door. Maya's heart skipped a beat. She could hear the urgency in his tone, the fear that was barely contained. Something was wrong. Dad, she called back, her voice trembling. What's going on? The door creaked open slowly, and Victor stepped inside, his face pale and his eyes wide with fear. His normally calm demeanor had vanished, replaced by a look of dread that Maya had never seen before. They're here, he whispered, barely audible. They've found us. Maya's blood ran cold. The words hung in the air like a terrible omen. They've found us. It was a phrase that had haunted her, and now it was coming true. She had known it was coming, but nothing could have prepared her for the sheer weight of the realization. Who? She managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. Victor's eyes flicked toward the window, his gaze sharp and alert. The people from your mother's family. The society. They're not just looking for you, they're coming for you. And they're not going to stop. Maya's stomach churned as she processed his words. She had expected them to come, to search for her, but hearing her father say it so plainly made it feel real in a way it hadn't before. They weren't just some distant threat. They were here. They were close. And they wouldn't stop until they had her. Victor turned to her, his voice steady but filled with urgency. We need to leave. Now. They won't hesitate to take drastic measures if they think you're in danger. We don't have much time. Maya nodded, the adrenaline flooding her system. She didn't have to be told twice. Her father was right. There was no time to waste. She grabbed her violin case and stuffed a few essentials into a bag, clothes, money, anything she might need if they were forced to run. As she rushed around the room, her thoughts raced. She was no longer just the janitor's daughter. She was the heir to a legacy she had never known, a legacy that had now become a dangerous curse. When she was ready, she turned to her father. He was already by the door, his coat on, his face grim. We need to leave the house, he said. We'll go to the old cabin. It's remote. They won't think to look for us there. Maya nodded, her heart pounding. She followed him as he led the way through the house, down the back stairs to the garage where their old car waited. The engine hummed to life as they sped down the road, leaving the house behind. The darkness of the night seemed to close in around them, and Maya couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. As they drove, her mind swirled with questions. Why were they after her? What did they want from her? And what did her mother's past have to do with all of this? Victor seemed lost in thought, his grip on the steering wheel tight. Maya didn't want to push him for answers, but the questions were building inside her, each one more urgent than the last. Dad, she finally said, her voice trembling, what happened to my mother? Why did she leave her family? Why did she hide from them? Victor's knuckles whitened as he gripped the wheel. He didn't answer immediately, his eyes focused on the road ahead. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and strained. Your mother was a part of something much bigger than we ever knew. She was born into a world of power, of wealth, of influence. But she didn't want that life. She wanted to be free. And when she met me, she left it all behind. But they never stopped looking for her. And when she had you, she swore to me that you would never have to live that life. Maya's mind raced as she processed his words. Her mother had left a life of power and privilege to be with him. To be with Maya. But why? I don't understand, Maya said. If her family was so powerful, why didn't they stop looking for her? Why didn't they let her go? Victor's jaw clenched. Because, Maya, your mother was more than just a daughter to them. She was the key to something they needed. Something that only she, and now you, could unlock. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The key to what? Victor glanced at her, his face hardening. We don't have much time. But I'll tell you everything when we get to the cabin. For now, just stay close. We can't afford to be found. The car sped through the winding roads, the world outside becoming more isolated with each passing mile. The weight of the unknown pressed down on Maya as they neared the cabin. They were on the edge of a world that had always been hidden from her, a world she was about to enter whether she was ready or not. As they pulled up to the cabin, the door creaked open, and Victor stepped out, scanning the surroundings. He motioned for Maya to follow him inside. Maya stepped into the darkness of the cabin, her mind spinning with everything she had just learned. The violin case, which had once been a symbol of her escape, now felt like a reminder of everything that was out of her control. Dad, Maya said, her voice quiet, what are they looking for? What's in the legacy that they need from me? Victor turned to face her, his eyes shadowed by the dim light. They're looking for a key, Maya. A key that's been passed down through generations of your mother's family. It's hidden somewhere, and they believe you can find it. The key to what? Maya asked, her voice trembling with fear and curiosity. Victor's face grew somber. The key to everything, Maya. The key to unlocking the power your mother's family once had. The silence in the cabin was suffocating. Maya stood near the dimly lit fireplace, the shadows from the flickering flames dancing on the rough wooden walls. Her father, Victor, was across from her, his face drawn, his hands shaking slightly as he stared into the fire. She had never seen him like this, always the strong, quiet man who had worked tirelessly to give her a life free from worries. But now, he was a shadow of the man she once knew. The weight of the last few days hung heavily between them, unspoken words swirling in the air like dust. The journey from their house to the cabin had been filled with quiet tension, and once they had arrived, nothing had been said. Maya knew he was grappling with something. Something he hadn't told her yet. She couldn't wait anymore. The questions had piled up, each one demanding answers that she couldn't avoid. She needed to know why she was a target, why the society that had once controlled everything wanted her, and, most pressing of all, what her mother had left behind. "Dad, I need to know," Maya said, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm, but the urgency in it was undeniable. "You said that they believe I can find the key. But what is it? Why is it so important?" Victor let out a long sigh and turned to her. For the first time since they had arrived, he met her gaze. There was a deep sadness in his eyes, a sadness that made Maya's heart ache. She had never seen her father like this. He had always been her protector, the man who had shielded her from the world. Now, it seemed that he was as lost as she was. "I was hoping you wouldn't have to know all this," he began, his voice low, "but now there's no turning back. I've been trying to protect you from the truth for as long as I could. But it's all connected, Maya. You have to understand. Your mother's family, those people, they're not just powerful. They're dangerous. And what they want, what they've always wanted, is power. Control." Maya frowned, her thoughts racing. "But you said my mother left them. She chose to leave that life. Why would they want her back? Why would they want me?" Victor leaned forward, his voice trembling. "Your mother left them, yes. She chose you over them. But she didn't just leave behind a family, Maya. She left behind a legacy. A legacy that is powerful beyond anything you can imagine. They don't just want you because of who you are. They want you because of what you carry inside you." Maya's pulse quickened. She could feel her heart hammering in her chest. "What do you mean, what I carry inside me? I don't understand." Victor paused for a moment, as if weighing his words carefully. "It's not just your bloodline, Maya. It's what your mother had, and what you have inherited from her. The society believes that whoever holds the key will have the power to control everything, their entire network, their wealth, their influence. It's an ancient power, one that has been passed down for generations. And your mother was the last one who knew how to unlock it. She didn't want it. She tried to bury it. And when she had you, she made sure you would never be involved. But they know about you, Maya. They know that you're the key to unlocking it all." Maya's head spun as she tried to process the magnitude of her father's words. "So, they're after me because of some power I didn't even know I had? Because I'm the one who can unlock something I don't even understand?" Victor nodded solemnly. "Exactly. And if they find you, Maya, if they get their hands on you, there's no telling what they'll do. They'll stop at nothing to make sure they gain control over that power." Maya's mind raced. Her thoughts were a tangled mess, but one thing stood clear: she had to figure out what her mother had left behind. The key. The power. She was the only one who could stop them. "But how can I stop them if I don't even know what I'm looking for?" Maya asked, her voice tinged with frustration. Victor stood up, his gaze intense. "I don't know if you can stop them. But I know this: the key isn't something physical. It's not a treasure hidden somewhere in the world. It's something within you, Maya. You've always had it. You just need to figure out how to unlock it. Maya's mind was whirling. Something within me? She felt like she was falling into a hole with no bottom, a place where the answers didn't exist, where all she could do was flail in the darkness and hope to catch a glimpse of the truth. Her father seemed to sense her confusion. "You're not alone in this," he said, his voice softer now. "I've always been here for you. And I'll help you find a way to protect yourself. But you need to understand, you can't run from this. You can't hide from what you are. You have to embrace it." Maya took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing thoughts. It was hard to accept that she was part of something much larger than herself, something that she couldn't control. But she knew one thing for sure, she couldn't run anymore. She couldn't pretend that her life was simple. Not when the society was hunting her, not when her mother's legacy had come crashing into her world. "We need to figure out what she left behind," Maya said, determination creeping into her voice. "If I'm the key to unlocking this power, then I have to understand what it is. I have to know how to protect myself, and you." Victor nodded slowly, but his face remained grim. "I've been trying to protect you for so long, Maya. I never wanted this for you. But now, we don't have a choice. We have to find the answers, and we have to do it quickly." Maya looked at her father, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and love. "What do we do now?" Victor glanced toward the old desk in the corner of the room, where a dusty pile of papers lay. Slowly, he walked over to it, his hands shaking as he sifted through the papers. After a moment, he picked up an old leather-bound book, its edges worn and frayed with age. He walked back to Maya and placed the book in her hands. "This," he said, his voice quiet, "was your mother's. It's the only clue I have to what she left behind. It's not much, but it's all I can give you." Maya stared at the book, its weight heavy in her hands. She could feel the history embedded in its pages, the secrets it contained. Slowly, she opened it, her fingers tracing the delicate pages. The book was filled with strange symbols and notes, written in a language she didn't understand. But there was something familiar about it, something that made her feel as though she had seen these symbols before. She flipped through the pages, her eyes scanning the text. And then, on the last page, she saw something that made her heart stop. A symbol. The same symbol that had been engraved on the back of her violin. Her breath caught in her throat. This is it. The key. The connection. Victor leaned over her shoulder and saw the symbol. His eyes widened in recognition. "That's it," he said, his voice low. "That's the symbol of your mother's family. The one that's been passed down for generations. The one that marks the legacy." Maya's fingers trembled as she traced the symbol on the page. She didn't understand it yet, but she knew it was the key to everything. The key to unlocking the power her mother had left behind. "We need to find out what this means," Maya said, her voice steady with resolve. "I'm not going to let them control me. I'm not going to let them use me." Victor looked at her, pride and fear mixing in his eyes. "You're strong, Maya. You've always been. But remember, this will be a fight like no other. And you can't do it alone." Maya closed the book, determination flooding her veins. She wasn't just the janitor's daughter anymore. She was the key to a legacy that could change everything. And she was going to find out what that meant, no matter the cost. Maya sat alone in the dimly lit cabin, the old leather-bound book resting on the table in front of her. The symbol on the last page, the one that matched the engraving on her violin, was seared into her mind. It was the key to everything, the key to understanding her mother's past, the key to unlocking the power the society wanted, the key to her own survival. Victor had gone out earlier to gather some supplies. He was trying to prepare for what was coming. Maya could feel the tension in the air, thick with anticipation. The society wasn't far behind. They were coming for her, and they wouldn't stop until they had what they wanted. But Maya had a choice now. She could run. She could hide. She could spend the rest of her life running from a past she couldn't control. Or she could face it. She could confront whatever was hidden within her, whatever her mother had left behind, and take control of her own destiny. The question that had been haunting her for days, what was her mother's legacy, was no longer just a question. It was the very thing that would define her future. Maya opened the book once more, her eyes tracing the strange symbols and notes that filled the pages. She felt a strange pull as she turned each page, as though the book was alive, guiding her, leading her towards something. But what? What was she supposed to do with this ancient text? What was the power hidden within it? Her fingers paused on a page, the ink fading with age. A line of text stood out to her, though. The language was foreign, almost incomprehensible. The symbols danced in her mind, a puzzle she was desperately trying to solve. But just as she was about to close the book in frustration, something shifted. The symbols began to make sense. They aligned in her mind, forming a pattern that she recognized. The sound of her violin echoed in her ears as if calling her to something, to someone. Her mother had hidden the key in the music, in the very notes that Maya had learned to play since childhood. She stood up abruptly, her heart racing. The answer was staring her in the face. She had always known that the violin was more than just an instrument. It was her connection to her mother's past, to the power that had been passed down through generations. The music held the secret. Without thinking, Maya rushed to the corner of the cabin where her violin case rested. She grabbed the instrument and opened it, her fingers trembling as she took it into her hands. The weight of the violin felt different now. It wasn't just wood and strings. It was the key to unlocking the mystery. She stood before the fireplace, the flames flickering as if urging her on. Her mind was clear now. She knew what she had to do. Maya lifted the bow and positioned it on the strings. As she began to play, the familiar sound filled the room, but something was different. The notes were sharper, more precise, as though the violin itself was guiding her. The music began to weave a pattern, a melody that seemed to echo from a distant place, a place where time didn't exist. The rhythm of the music slowed, and the world around her seemed to shift. The cabin faded into the background, the walls blurring as the room seemed to expand. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the vibrations of the violin reverberate through her body. The music flowed through her, like a river of power she couldn't control. Suddenly, the room went silent. Maya opened her eyes, her breath coming in short gasps. The music had stopped, but the silence that followed was deafening. A chill ran down her spine as she looked around the room. Nothing had changed, but everything felt different. And then, she saw it. In the corner of the room, near the fireplace, a shadow seemed to flicker. At first, she thought it was just her mind playing tricks on her, but then the shadow shifted again. This time, it wasn't an illusion. It was real. The figure stepped out of the shadows, and Maya's heart skipped a beat. It was a man, tall, cloaked in darkness, his face hidden beneath a hood. Maya instinctively reached for the violin again, her fingers gripping the neck as if it were her only protection. "Who are you?" Maya demanded, her voice shaking with both fear and defiance. The man did not answer immediately. Instead, he stepped forward, his movements deliberate and slow, as if he were savoring the moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, smooth, and laced with a quiet menace. "You've done well to come this far," he said. "But you don't understand what you're dealing with, do you?" Maya's grip on her violin tightened. She wasn't afraid anymore. She had come this far, and she wasn't going to back down now. "I know enough to know that you're after something I won't give you," she replied, her voice steady. The man smiled, though it was a cold, hollow expression. "You still don't understand. It's not about what you give me, Maya. It's about what you become." Maya felt a surge of anger and confusion. What are you talking about? What do you want from me? The man stepped closer, and for the first time, Maya saw the faintest hint of recognition in his eyes. I am here because of the power you carry. The legacy your mother tried to bury. But it's not buried anymore. You've unlocked it, Maya. You've activated it with your music. Her heart skipped a beat. The violin. The music. It was all connected. The man continued, his voice softer now. Your mother knew that this day would come. She knew that you would eventually uncover the truth. But she also knew that the power inside you is too great to control. That's why she tried to keep you away from it. Maya's mind raced. Power? Control? She was just a girl who had learned to play the violin, who had spent years living a quiet life with her father. What power was he talking about? What do you want from me? She asked again, her voice shaking with urgency. The man finally pulled back his hood, revealing his face. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The man before her was no stranger. He was someone she had seen in her dreams, in the distant memories that lingered at the edge of her consciousness. He was a part of her past, a part of the legacy her mother had tried to escape. My name is Marcus, he said, his eyes locking onto hers. And I am the one who will lead you to your true destiny. Before Maya could respond, the cabin door flew open. Victor rushed in, his face pale with fear. Maya, no, he shouted. Get away from him. Marcus's eyes flashed with amusement. Victor, he said, as if greeting an old friend. I was wondering when you'd show up. You've done well to protect her, but it's too late now. She's already chosen her path. Victor stood between Maya and Marcus, his body tense with anger. You won't have her. Not after everything you did to her mother. Marcus's smile faded, his expression turning cold. It was never about your wife, Victor. It was always about Maya. She is the key to the power we've been seeking for generations. And now that she's unlocked it, there's no turning back. Maya stood frozen, the weight of the situation crashing down on her. Her father, the man who had always protected her, was now the one standing in her way. But the man before her, Marcus, was offering something that seemed impossible, something that could change the course of history. Maya glanced at her violin, the symbol etched into the back of it glinting in the firelight. She felt the power stirring within her, as if the music had opened a door to a world she had never known. This is your choice, Maya, Marcus said, his voice soft but insistent. Embrace the power within you. Join us, and together, we can reshape the world. Victor stepped forward, his face determined. Don't listen to him, Maya. This is not who you are. Your mother chose a different path for you. Don't let him control you. Maya's mind raced, torn between two worlds. She could choose to walk away from the legacy, from the power. She could choose to stay with her father and live a life of peace, away from the dark forces that had always threatened her family. Or she could embrace the power Marcus offered, and risk losing herself in the process. The music, the violin, the symbol, it all made sense now. She was the key. And the choice was hers to make. Maya's hand trembled as she held the violin. The music was the key, the power inside her waiting to be unlocked. But would she choose to embrace it, or would she walk away and protect the life she had left? The choice was hers, but the consequences, whatever path she chose, would echo through the rest of her life.